Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are on Daf Yud Zayin, Amud Aleph, 10 lines from the top of the Amud by 2 dots. Kama yochal min hatevel. Today's Amud is being learned. Leschut refuah shelema. Rachel Simcha Bad Nahid should have full recovery. Refuah shelema be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. This month's learning of the community has been graciously sponsored by the Dayan family, by Cohen family, by Shea family. Should be an ultimate zchut for all of their families, be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. So we learned in the Mishnah, Daf Yud Gimel, Amud Aleph, a number of transgressions that you end up getting malkut for it. Because the chiyuv malkut of lashes is not just limited to what you eat, but you have to also understand how much you have to eat to be chayav. So the very end of the first Mishnah spoke about a machloket Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim of how much do you have to eat to become chayav. And says the Mishnah, I'm just going to go back to Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, read the 2 lines, the 2 last lines of the Mishnah, in which the Mishnah says, Rabbi Shimon Omer Kol Shehu, when you eat Kol Shehu of the Tevel, you're already chayav. And Chachamim say no. We have Shiurin, Chatzitzin, Umechitzin, Halacha Moshe Misinai. One of the 3 items that we know Halacha Moshe Misinai, it's given, is the Shiur of things that you have to eat. And we know the Shiur is Kazait. So why else do you have the shiur of kazayid, if not because of the punishment of malkut? So Chachamim therefore argue and say, no, if you have tevel, like untied produce, and you eat it, just 1 grain, well, you did something wrong. We paskin like Rabbi Yochanan at the very end of Masechet Yuma, that even a small, minute amount of a isur deoraita, you're still in transgression of a deoraita level of prohibition. Chatzi shiur asur min Torah in the language of Chazal. Even if you have a chatzi shiur, a minute amount, still you are transgressing not the Rabbanan, but biblical full-fledged level of transgression. But you don't get punished. You don't get malkut for a little grain of tevel. Rabbi Shimon says, no, even for 1 grain you get malkut. And he goes back and forth. He compares it to a nemala. He says, well, you guys agree that if I have a little ant, it's not kazayit, and still I get a number of sets of malkut, as we discussed in the previous shiurim. And Chachamim say, yeah, but that's a beriyah. That is considered a full creation. So all the grain of chita also is a full creation. So that you should get also for it. That was the back and forth of the last 2 lines of the Mishnah. Now we're going to actually discuss it. Says the Gemara, Kama yochal min hatevel. This discussion that we had between Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim, Rav Bibi is going to comment on it. Amar Rav Bibi, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Now, the preface to this is, there's going to be a machloket, Rabbi Bibi and Rabbi Yirmiyah, what exactly Resh Lakish has said, and the Gemara is going to concur with Rabbi Yirmiyah. Right? That's how it's going to develop. So the first shita is, Rabbi Bibi said in the name of Resh Lakish, machloket bechita. Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim only argue in a full grain of chita, of wheat, barley, whatever it is, but it has to be a full grain. Then Rabbi Shimon says, you're chayav. It's not that Rabbi Shimon is going to be stringent even if I ground up this thing and made it now to flour. It has to be a full-fledged grain, a kernel. Then if I eat that, Rabbi Shimon says, you're chayav. Just like an ant. But if I took this grain and I crushed it, and now there's a crushed piece of who knows what, right? You can't tell. It's crushed. It's not whole. Or I grind it up, and now it's flour. Even Rabbi Shimon holds you don't get Malkut. That's what Rabbi Bibi said in the name of Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yirmiyah is going to disagree and say, no, even if you grind it up and now it's powder, it's flour, still you're chayav. You have a little bit of flour of tevel, chayav malkut. That's going to be the machloket. Both of them are quoting the same person. Both of them are saying it in the name of Resh Lakish, and as we said, the Gemara is going to conquer with Rabbi Yirmiyah. So let's read this through. Amar Rabibi, Amar Rabbi Shimon Lakish, machloket bechita. Machloket Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim is only with a full chita, a full grain of wheat. Aval bekemach. But if you turn this to kemach, to flour, divrei akol kazait, then you need kazait, even according to Rabbi Shimon, not just according to Chachamim. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, no, Resh Lakish never said that. Resh Lakish said exactly the opposite. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, kemachloket bezu, kach machloket bezu. Doesn't make a difference. Resh Lakish said that Rabbi Shimon says you will get malkut whether you have 1 grain of chita, wheat, or if you crush it, or if you tear it into flour, makes 0 difference. You have the minutest amount of tevel in any form or shape, you will be absorbing the 39 malkuts, no question. Fine. Tanan. The Gemara says a suggestion, an attempt from the very language of the Mishnah. Now, if me and you would read the Mishnah, we would also make the same exact attempt because it's pretty clear in the language of the Mishnah. Let's read the Mishnah together. Amaraim Rabbi Shimon, first white line. Rabbi Shimon argues back with Chachamim. Are you not in agreement? Are you not agreeable? That if you eat 1 nemala, 1 ant, even as small as he may be, kolshehu, chayav, then you get lashes. Amru lo, they told him, dear Rabbi Shimon, the reason you get lashes on a nemala, on an ant, is because it is a creation, full creation. So Amar Lahen, he comes back to them with the argument of chita achat kibriyata. Even 1 grain of wheat is kibriyata. That's also a creation of its own. If you will read this Mishnah, what would you say? What does Resh Lakish say? Rabbi Shimon only obligates you to lashes if you ate what? A complete beria, a complete chita. If I would grind this up to flour, when I read the Mishnah, what would be chayav or not? Absolutely not. Because it says, af chita achat kebriyata. He says the Mishnah what Rabbi Shimon holds. Rabbi Shimon holds you get lashes for having 1 grain of wheat because it is a beria, because it is the way it was created. If I take a little flour from my whole pile, that's not a 1 chita, that's flour. It's not kibriyata. It's no longer just like if I grind up an ant, it's not kibriyata anymore. You don't get lashes for that. You're doing a very bad thing, but you're not getting a lash, a set of lashes for it. So that would be the diuk in the Gemara, in the Mishnah. That's pashut. So it says the Gemara, chita'in kemachlo. You see from Rabbi Shimon already that only for a grain of wheat you get malkut, not for kemach, not for wheat, not for flour. The Gemara says, no, that's not a nice attempt. Chazaku baruch. Thank you so much. But that's not a halachic diuk. Why? Because oftentimes in Mishnayot or in the Gemara, when you have a debate between 2 parties, the answers that are given are according to you. Me and you are debating this, and I will argue that even an argument that even according to you should be true. And here Rabbi Shimon is doing exactly the same thing. He's telling Chachamim, even according to you, that you say for flour, you should not get lashes if it's a small, minute amount. For 1 chita, for 1 grain, you should get, because what's the difference between 1 ant and 1 grain of isur, right? He's arguing according to them. He says, you guys say that even for 1 grain, a full grain of chita, you don't get lashes. Why not? According to your own logic, that for one ant you get malkut, the reason is beria, right? Because it's a full grain. So chita also is a beria. So even according to yourself, you are not consistent. I really hold that you get malkut even for a little kemach, a little flour. That's what I hold. But according to you guys, you're not consistent. Because if you say the nimala, the reason is because of beria, so I have another beria for you. Chita also is a beria. The wheat is also a beria. That's the discussion. So you are not allowed to make that diuk in the Mishnah to say, oh, Rabbi Shimon holds only for a chita you get, not for flour. No! He could very well be that he would hold that even for a little flour you get malkut. His argument with them, with this whole beria business is, he says, according to you, yourself, Chachamim, you're not consistent. How in the world can you tell me that for one nimala, for one ant, you get lashes, but for one chita, you don't get lashes? Both of them are less than a kazayit, and both of them are a full beria, a full creature. And Chachamim say, no, come down. There is a difference between a nimala and a chita. You know what the difference is? A nimala is a beria of neshama. It's a living being. A living being is much more important than an inanimate object. I mean, it's inanimate, but it's someach. It's not chai, right? A someach doesn't have neshama, doesn't have nefesh. This is a living, breathing, walking being. So that's much more important. Chashivut of beria is its life. It's life of chai, not its someach. So says the Gemara, Kamalehu, it's ledivrehem kamalehu. Rabbi Shimon is arguing with Chachamim. This is just reading what we discussed already. Ledidi afilu kemach nami. Says, really, according to me, says Rabbi Shimon, even kemach, even flour, even minute amount of flour you get lashes for, if it's tevel. Ela ledidchu bad, according to you, Chachamim, who you hold that nemala and ent you get lashes for, odu li mihad, at least agree with me that for one grain of wheat also you should get malkut, because there is no difference between a grain of wheat and a nemala. Kebriyata v'rabanan, and Chachamim say, no, dear Rabbi Shimon, not true. There is a difference between a grain of wheat and one ant, and the difference is briyat neshama chashuva, a creation of neshama, a living, breathing, walking being is very different than a little grain of wheat. Chita lo chashuva. Now, chita doesn't have the same, doesn't carry the same level of chashivut. Tanya kivate, but just that you should know, the Tur brings in Chod Brachot something that's important to know for those who want to be pious individuals, that for bracha achrona, we say you have to have kazayit to have bracha achrona. So if you don't want to get yourself into machloket, you want to stay away from having any questionable amount that may be kazayit. But then you realize that the Tur brings a shita that if you have a beria, a full beria, then you, according to some Rishonim, have to make bracha achrona as well, right? So sometimes you want to have just one little grape and say, oh, mahlokit, kazayit. People think the zayit in the time of Chazal was like as big as a basket. Like, they have kazayit. So the funniest is when people say shiur hazonish, they want to eat another cookie at your home, and they say, okay, I'm machmir like hazonish. They don't realize that hazonish is very mekel actually by kazayit. By all the other shiurim is machmir. Like kazayit of, if you would see what Chazonish holds to be kazayit for matzah, Leil Pesach, he would be extremely uncomfortable with his kazayit. It would be like an Israeli matchbox size of matzah, right? But nevertheless, there's this shita that for a beria, a little full grain of something, he will also be haya bracha achrona. So you'll find some Hasidim that when they are eating less than shiur, they want to eat only one thing. They cut it to half. They eat half of it first, and then the other one, because then you're not eating a whole beria together. But nevertheless, that's the discussion between Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim. Says the Gemara. Tanya kvated Rabbi Yirmiyah. Now we had this machloket. What exactly Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish has said, right? Says the Gemara, we have a braita that proves like Rabbi Yirmiyah that Resh Lakish actually holds that the Shita of Rabbi Shimon in our Mishnah does not differentiate between flour and a grain of wheat. Rabbi Shimon holds you will get lashes for the minutest amount of isur that you eat, regardless of the form of it. Even if it's flour form, makes zero difference. You still will be getting lashes for it. Because we have the Braita clearly saying it in Rabbi Shimon like that. Let's read this line before the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kol shehu lemakot, lo amru kazait ela leinyan korban. Rabbi Shimon holds as a general rule of thumb that when you consume isurim of Torah, things that the Torah has prohibited, every one of them, with the minutest amount, you already will be getting lashes. You don't need kazait. So, you'll ask me, why in the world do I have halacha Moshe Misina, I have kazait? Nobody argues with that. Nobody argues that shiurin are halacha Moshe Misinai. So when we have a shiur of kazait for achilat isur, so why is that there? So Rabbi Shimon says, that is for getting karet and for what? Bringing korban. If you eat chelev, you have to bring korban. So if I ate half a kazait of chelev, do I have to bring korban? No, you have to bring kazait. Do I get karet? No, you don't get karet. Kazait. But do I get lashes? Oh boy, you get lashes. For sure you get lashes, according to Rabbi Shimon. Right? Because for that you don't need kazait. Just like Rabbi Yochanan holds that a minutest amount you are transgressing a isur deoraita, you will also be getting lashes for it. Now, I'll just leave you for a little homework. We mentioned, you should be asking this question by now, we mentioned that the machloket at the very end of Masechet Yuma is between who and who? Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Is Chatzi Shiur Asur Min Torah, or it's Chatzi Shiur not Asur Min Torah? Right? Resh Lakish holds Chatzi Shiur, if you eat half a Shiur, is Asur only Midrabanan. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that holds if you eat Chatzi Shiur, you are transgressing a Deoraita. And yet, we are learning over here that Resh Lakish says, you even get Malkut for having a Chatzi Shiur over here. Now, the simple answer, of course, is he holds this in Rabbi Shimon, and there he holds the halacha like Chachamim, but an irony of a thing, nevertheless. So says the Mishnah. Let's start.
Why does it say Tanya Kabate? Because this is Brisa, but it's quoting Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish as an Amora.
He's saying that in Rabbi Shimon. In other words, there is a Shita of Rabbi Shimon in the Mishnah, it's a Tana, and now there's Machloket how Resh Lakish explained Shita of Rabbi Shimon. So the Gemara says, we have a Braita that reads the Shita of Rabbi Shimon exactly like the second version in Resh Lakish, the way Rabbi Yirmiyah codified Resh Lakish explaining Rabbi Shimon. Right? It's another stop over there. It makes it a Tanaic thing. So says the Mishnah. Now this Mishnah is continuing on the previous Mishnah of what exactly is Asur that you will get lashes for. So says the Mishnah, Ha'ochel bikurim at shelo kara alehem. If you eat bikurim before you read on them, you get lashes. Now let's explain what this means. What is bikurim? Bikurim means if you own land in Eretz Yisrael, it's limited to Eretz Yisrael, and you have the 7 minim, right? One of the 7 species that Eretz Yisrael has been praised with, right? Which is chitaus ora, and then 5 fruits, right? Eretz chitaus ora gefen ut enav rimon, eretz et shemen udvash, which gives you wheat and barley, of course, and then it gives you pomegranates, grapes, figs, dates, and olives. When you have those items, the first fruit that starts sprouting and growing, you would tie a little ribbon on and say, Ze bikurim. This is my bikurim, first produce of the year. And then you cherish it, you grow it, And when it's ready, you bring a basket to Yerushalayim. You bring a basket to Yerushalayim, you give it to the Kohen. Kohen puts it in front of Mizbeach Hashem Elokecha, puts it in front of Mizbeach, and afterwards, you read an entire parasha that we actually read in Haggadah Shel Pesach as well, Arami, Oved Avi, Vayered Misraima, right? Vagosh Mipnei Me'at, Ram. And then the Kohen, it's for Kohen. The Kohen eats it, right? So at what this is Kodashim. You're talking about Bikurim becomes like Truma, becomes like Kochim. So you for sure cannot eat it. Forget about that. Right? You get Chiyuv Malkut and Mitabidei Shamayim if you touch that. Right? But even the Kohen cannot eat it prematurely. When does this become Kadosh? Right? So the moment you say Zeh Bikurim, this is already you cannot touch it. This already became Kodashim. Well, at what point it becomes like Mamash Din of Kodashim? For instance, the Rambam says when you're bringing this from outside Yerushalayim, from Haifa, from Tel Aviv, from wherever you live in Eretz Israel, right? Because in Los Angeles you don't have Chiyuv Bikurim, right? So only in Eretz Israel, only by 7 minim, and also you have to own the land. So you're bringing it. Says Rambam, you hit Yerushalayim, you walk into the boundaries of Yerushalayim, boom. This is now Bikurim. You touch it, bad news. The Meiri writes once you come to the area of Azara. Once it's Ro'eh Penei Azara, then you become Asur. However you slice that, you come there. So now if I eat this, do I get Malkut? Well, not necessarily. Yes, no, maybe yes, maybe no. What exactly is the moment in time that I, as a Kohen, could eat this? Well, we know the process. The process is, you as the Jew bring it inside the Azara, you give it to the Kohen. This is the process. The Kohen puts it in front of the Mizbeach. Then you read this parasha of Vidui Maser, of Arami, Oved Avi, blah, 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 and then he could eat it. At what point exactly can the Kohen eat it? Oh, well, that directly depends what is a must and what is not a must. So if you tell me it's a must for the Kohen to put it in front of Mizbeach, because the Pasuk says he has to do it. But the reading of the thing is not really, sometimes it's mevi ve'eno koreh. Sometimes you have cases that he brings the bikurim, but he doesn't read it. So maybe the reading is not such a big deal. Oh, if you say that, then when the Kohen puts it in front of the Mizbeach, if he sees, oh, this is so good, right? And he takes one and eats, oh, fine. Okay, maybe he has to work, he'll learn some Shareh, Shareh Tshuva, and do Tshuva a little bit for being hasty, but he didn't do such a big deal. He's not going to get Makot. But if you tell me that the reading of the Parashat Maaser, Vidui Maaser of Arami Oved Avi is a must for whenever the Chiyuv is there, then if the Kohen touches that food before you read Parashat Vidui Maaser, he is unhooked for Makot. So that's the machloket over here. So if a Kohen even prematurely eats Bikurim, he gets Malkut. What? We're going to see in the Gemara which stage exactly. But that's really the background of this three first words of the Mishnah. Now the Mishnah holds it is so long as you have not read Parashat Vidui Maaser. So even though that you already, the Kohen, put it in front of the Mizbeach, so long as the Baalim, the owners, have not read the Vidui Maaser, if you touch that, even if you're the Kohen, you will be in for lashes. That's what the Mishnah holds. We'll see soon in the Gemara that this is Machloket Tanaim, as we explained. That's why I gave the preface. Now, Koche Kodashim Chutz Lekelahim. Also, you will get lashes if you eat Koche Kodashim outside of the curtains. What does that mean? Well, for beginners, there are two basic levels of holy items, Kodashim, right? A lot of things are Kodashim. But there are two levels. There's Koche Kodashim, there's Kodashim Kalim. They have many, many differences. One of the basic differences is where can you eat them? So Koche Kodashim, the highest level of Kodashim, you only could eat them within the curtains, within the Klaim. Now, why do we called them curtains because in the Mishkan, they're not walls. There are no walls of boundaries of Azara. There were curtains, right? Kaleh chaser, right? The chaser of the Mishkan had kalaim, had curtains around it. In the Beit HaMikdash, you had walls, right? You had fortified walls around the Azara. So it means you could only eat them in the Azara. You step one step, half a step, 1 inch out of the Azara and you take a bite, Malkut, right? That's for Kodesh Kodashim. What is considered Kodesh Kodashim? Olah, Korban Olah, Chatat, Korban Chatat, Asham, Korban Asham, right? Shalmei Tzibur, Korban Shlamim that belongs not to a Yachid, not to an individual, but it's for the Tzibur, Korban Menachot, all the Menachot, these are all Kodesh Kodashim, right? Kodshim Kalim, the lower level of Kodshim, also have limitations, but limitations are way more, lax. You could eat them in Yerushalayim. So outside of Azara, you could still eat them, but don't you dare eating them outside Yerushalayim. You'll get Malkut. What are Kodashim Kalim? Help me out over here. Oh, it was Lechem HaPanim, by the way. It's Kodashim. But by Kodashim Kalim, by lower level, is Korban Shelamim, Korban Todah, private things that you bring, right? El Nazir, the Nazir brings the Korban, right? Korban Pesach, right? All of these are Kodashim Kalim. So you can eat them in Yerushalayim, but you can't say, well, I'm taking my Korban Pesach outside in Haifa, I'm eating it in Tel Aviv, Chas v'shalom, right? Then you get lashes. So it's Kodshim. Kodshim has to, no Kodshim could be eaten outside of Yerushalayim, right? You eat holy things in a holy place of Yerushalayim. Amazing. So it says, the Mishnah, Kodshim Kalim, Maaser Sheni. Maaser Sheni also, we said, even if you live in, wherever you live in Eretz Yisrael, the Maaser Sheni you have to bring to Yerushalayim to eat, right? So even though that doesn't have the same thing as Kodshim Kalim, it's not Kodesh in that way. It is Kodesh, but it's not like Kodeshim Kalim. Maaser Sheni is considered also things that have to be eaten in Yerushalayim. So, therefore, Chutz Lachoma, if you eat them outside the walls of Yerushalayim, you will get lashes, right? Also, Hashover et etzem bePesach. If you're eating Korban Pesach and you really want to have some bone marrow, right? And you break that bone, right? Then we break your bones. Then you get lashes. Because it says, ve'etzem lo tishberu bo. It's a law in the Torah. You cannot break a bone in Korban Pesach. It has to be whole. Right? But that's only for a Pesach that is tahor. It's a Korban Pesach that was brought betahara. Hareze loke. You get lashes. Right? Loke arba'im. Aval hamotir betahor. If you left over some of the meat of Korban Pesach, you're not supposed to do that. But if you did, you don't get lashes. Why? We learned this, Rabotai. Why? Because it is lav hanitak laseh. Like Rabbi Yehuda we had, but 3 different reasons. But the one we said is lav hanitak laseh. Because it says, don't leave until the morning. But if you left until the morning, you burn it. Let's just finish this sentence. Ve'hashover betameh. Or if you break a bone in Korban Pesach, that is tameh. Again, don't get lashes. How in the world can you have a Korban Pesach that's tameh? So the Meiri writes over here, the simple fact is, if all of Klal Yisrael or majority of Klal Yisrael are tameh, you could bring Korban Pesach betum'ah. Still a kosher Korban Pesach. So you could have a kosher Korban Pesach that's tameh. Says the Rambam, if you break a bone in that, you don't get lashes. Why? Because it says, the pasuk says, ve'etzem lo tishberu bo. And we darshin bo only in a kosher Korban Pesach that's tahor. But if there's any anomalies in the Korban Pesach, you don't get lashes. Be'ezrat Hashem will continue. One line left in the Mishnah in the days to come.